Well, we have a new tax bill, the big, beautiful bill. I know you've heard about it. I know most of the headlines are talking about politics, but what does it actually mean to you? What is the bottom line when it comes to your retirement and your planning? We're going to take you through the most important things you need to be focusing on next with Ryan. Welcome into Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you with us today. We're going to go through this big, beautiful bill. Ryan, I know headlines are covering it everywhere, and there's no way to escape it. But I know people have opinions either way. We're not worried about your opinions on the bill itself. We're just worried about what it actually means.
Yeah, that's right. I usually don't go down the politics rabbit hole. I don't really like politics. I remember taking political science at University of Georgia, and I hated that class. I mean, I dreaded it every single day, and I knew right then and there politics was not for me. Most of those people in that class were going to be eventual lawyers, attorneys, but it it just left a bad taste in my mouth. So I don't really like politics, but a lot of that is woven into what I do, not necessarily the politics side, but what they decide to do. And for me, being a financial planner, obviously taxes are a big part of what we do from a planning standpoint and a preparation standpoint. So we've been kind of waiting on this bill to see, because we knew they were going to sunset at the end of this year. We knew that. So we were kind of anxiously looking to see what was the kind of the next few years is going to look like. And finally we know now. Again, the big beautiful bill is kind of funny it's named that, but again, I don't really care what it's called, what it's named. I just care what it does for the people I work with or will eventually work with.
Yeah, so today we're going to kind of make sure that you're aware of some of the significant changes that could impact how much you get to keep and how much goes to Uncle Sam. If you have questions, you want to talk about this and discuss this with Ryan to see what kind of maybe adjustments you need to make, or hey, just make sure you're on the right track or begin the planning, whatever that is. Go to speakwithryan.com to begin that. And it's very easy, 15, 20 minutes, have a conversation, kind of get to know you a little bit better, but it's a great place to start. So if you have any questions following what we talk about today, please do not hesitate to reach out to Black Oak Asset Management. All right, Ryan, so let's jump into this. Let's start off. We got a list of 6-ish things. I know this list goes on forever, so we're not going to get to everything that's covered in here, but the marginal tax brackets, I know what most people are worried about and thinking about and wondering about as this is very getting close to the end of this year. So what do we know about what this bill brings us?
Yeah, for most people, if nothing was done, for most people, your tax rates were going to go up because they went back to previous levels before 2017. So we knew what the percentages were for each tax bracket. We just didn't know what those income bands were for each bracket. But for most people, it was going to be anywhere from 2 to 3, even higher percentage on making the same amount of money, but then being taxed more. It just depended on how quickly you went through each of those tax brackets, which we didn't necessarily know, but we knew the percentages were going to be higher. So we were. I didn't think they would go up right now because obviously with the political environment that we're in, there's the Republican Party kind of dominates the House and the Senate and as well as the executive branch. So we knew probably something was going to be passed. No kind of stalemate was going to happen. So as far as marginal tax brackets extended, so it's pretty much what we have now is going to move forward. Again, they'll inflate each bracket from a dollar amount just based off cost of living and whatever calculations that they do to come up with that number. So those will be a little bit higher, but we do know that in the bill, it says these tax changes are permanent. Again, we know those are not permanent, but at least for the foreseeable future, for the next probably 4 years, we can at least say, hey, this is what it's going to be. So as a planner, it gives us a little runway to say, hey, these are the things we need to do over the next 4 years, depending on what your situation is.
All right, so that's the first big thing. So you might not feel like a tax cut, but it could have gone up at the end of this year. So in essence, it is a little bit of a tax cut, but rates staying the same. So good to know about that. Standard deduction is the next big thing here. I know it's been easier for tax filing the last number of years because you just have a bigger deduction that you can work from. You don't have to itemize as much. And again, similar to the tax brackets, this is going to kind of continue to be the same, right?
It will. This year we got a nice even number of $30,000 married filing jointly. So those will continue on. So that number will inflate up a little bit. So yeah, for a lot of people, especially retirees, where our itemized deductions may be a good bit less. The significant ones that we all know of, mortgage deductions, things of that nature. Well, a lot of retirees may have their house paid off, and maybe they don't own their business anymore, because a lot of people we work with who are small business owners, they itemize their deductions. That's what I do. I itemize because there's a lot of things that you run through the business, and those are the things that you can itemize. But for a lot of people out there, again, especially retirees, those standard deductions are going to continue on. So it makes tax preparation a good bit easier. Doesn't mean you still don't need to hire someone to maybe do them for you, but it does make those filing your tax returns a good bit easier, because most people are not going to be itemizing, because it's going to be over $30,000 probably next year for married filing jointly.
Well, for those that are itemizing, I know that there are some bigger changes to the SALT cap, the state and local taxes. I know you can now deduct significantly more on your federal return. Now, again, this only applies to people that are itemizing, but this could be good for high income earners or people with large property tax bills. So do you think this moves the needle a little bit? Do you think this will impact your clients in terms of being able to maybe itemize and deduct a little bit more than maybe they were previously doing under the previous cap?
Yeah, the previous cap was 10,000. So yeah, there'll be plenty of our clients who will benefit from this SALT changes. So it's one of those kind of buried taxes that yeah, people talk about, but it's not. I don't know. It doesn't catch the huge media headlines, but this one is pretty significant, just because of how much property values have gone up in the last, let's say, 10 years, if not even last 5 years. So I think that will help out. Now, again, if you're viewing this and you're in a very low or zero state income tax state, really not going to benefit from this. The higher income state taxes, you are going to benefit from this. So I do think it does benefit a lot of our clients. I know it's going to help. I know it's going to help me out as well. So having that SALT cap being moved up is definitely going to help, because again, property taxes and property values have just continued to go up. So that will help ease some of the tax burden there for sure.
Again, tax planning is so important. If you haven't done so, if you want to maybe look ahead a little bit more and get beyond the tax prep that maybe you've been doing, go to speakwithryan.com to set up a time to meet with Ryan at Black Oak Asset Management. Again, talking about some of these changes in tax code and how it affects you potentially, and what adjustments you could be making right now before the new year is over, or this year is over currently. Now, the next one is interesting because it's called senior citizen deductions. I know a lot of people probably won't be very happy with that name, but it is interesting because this will affect a lot of retirees, because there's an additional deduction of $6,000 per person for people over the age of 65, again, provided they stay under certain income thresholds, right? But I know this is being framed as eliminating taxes on Social Security. Not exactly the case, but what do you think of this new addition to the tax code?
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as that bill was signed in, of course, Google searched a few articles, and some of the first ones that I saw, it was talking about, hey, the elimination of Social Security tax. I'm like, wow, they actually did that. So it's kind of, I don't want to call it a bait and switch, but that's almost what it seems like. It's no, there's still going to be Social Security taxes depending on what your taxable income is, but this is an extra deduction that's added on top, $6,000 per person, $12,000 married filing jointly. But again, there is a phase out. So if you're taxable, here's where the tax planning, like you just mentioned, here's where the tax planning component comes into play. Because again, it doesn't say income; it says it's a phase out on taxable income. So again, if you're leading up to retirement, and you can start doing some planning where you're moving monies from different accounts, mainly pre-tax IRAs to Roth IRAs, and do some of those Roth conversions, that's going to help out in some of this tax planning where you can get this full extra deduction on top of it. So depending on what your taxable income is, I mean, if you have a $30,000 standard and then another $12,000 married filing jointly, there's $42,000. Again, it depends on what your income is, but $150,000 is that phase out of taxable income where this $6,000 will dwindle. So again, being cognizant of those things, and the tax planning software that we have it's already updated the new tax code, the new tax law for 2026. Some things go into 2025, but in 2026, this is where a lot of this stuff takes effect. And our tax planning software has already been updated for that. So we can go ahead and enter, and people we work with, we can go ahead and enter their previous year's tax returns. And if it's going to be just about the same, we can project out on maybe what those potential tax savings will be.
Very good. And those are some of the biggest ones as part of the tax code. Again, there's a lot of smaller things that might affect some other people, but some other good news from this is that Roth opportunities are still alive. I know, there's always still a little concern that, hey, maybe there'll be some restrictions put on Roth conversions, but there's nothing in this bill, which is, I think, really good news, right? So how seriously should people be looking at these opportunities if you're over 59 and a half? About Roth conversions, you kind of touched on a little bit, and how do you work that into your planning?
Yeah, that was good that this area was not touched. Every single year, I'm always kind of like, when's this going to end? When's this going to end? And it may not ever end. I don't have a crystal ball when it comes to politics, much less the stock market. So anytime we can take advantage of Roth conversions, everybody's situation is different. Sometimes it may not make sense. Sometimes the break even on these Roth conversions is a long runway, but again, the exact break even is very difficult to determine because, again, a lot of our taxable income depends on spills over into Social Security, it spills over into Medicare premiums. I mean, there's just so many things that you got to take into consideration of what a Roth conversion would do for you from not necessarily now, but then long term. So having the opportunity to still do Roth conversions with no income restrictions, no dollar amount restrictions, that's huge. So if you want to take advantage of it, I would.
A lot of planning opportunities right now. So please take the time to look through this and again, reach out to a professional who has spent the time to look through everything, because again, this is not everything. This is just a kind of the top of the iceberg. There's a lot of smaller things down below, but a lot of things that really could impact you personally. These ones we've talked about today will impact a lot of people, most people. So we wanted to bring attention to those first, but please reach out if you have any questions. You can go to retireperfect.com too, to get a copy of Ryan's book, because this, again, kind of brings back that conversation of being prepared for retirement, making sure you're eliminating a lot of the threats. In your new book, Ryan, Diffuse the Retirement Threats, tackles a lot of these things like the taxes that could be happening in retirement and just being prepared for a lot of these challenges that pop up.
Yeah, it talks about a bunch of the challenges that retirees go through, some action steps, some stories that maybe they can relate to their situation. And so, yeah, it gives a lot of things for people to think about, and then maybe even address, maybe to a certain extent on their own, but to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Again, whether it's with us or another advisory firm, there's plenty of good ones out there, is to uncover some of these things that you may not know about. So that's where reading that book and the supplemental materials that are put in there, we're happy to send it out to you. We just need your name and basically your address, because we got to send it out to you. So, and we'll follow up with you to see if you want to have a conversation. If not, there's zero obligation to do so. We're just trying to provide a service, if you will, and add value and education at the same time.
Very good. Go to retireperfect.com to get that. Also, we'll be debunking some of the myths from this big, beautiful bill as well. So we'll have more to come. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We appreciate that support. We'll talk to you again soon here on Perfect Game Retirement.